Welcome. Welcome to this place. Here we search for truth and understanding. We celebrate life and contemplate its mysteries. We share healing and wholeness. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, whomever you love, we're so glad that you're here with us today. Come into this sacred place with all that you are, for you are enough. Come into this community of caring support, where you are enough. Come into this church with all of your joys and all of your sorrows, for you are enough. Come with all of your brokenness and with all of your beauty, for here you are enough. Come, let us worship together. And for all those who we've lost, perhaps recently or long ago, I will now light our candle of remembrance. O Spirit of life, we ask that you be with us here this morning as we reawaken that quiet part of ourselves that hungers for connection. We ask that you help us to put aside our worry, our anxiety, our fear, so that we may be fully present to the love that knows no end. Remind us that we are not alone in our times of grief and pain. We ask that you comfort us with your Spirit, that Spirit that is manifest in human hands and human voices. Remind us that we are not alone in our joy and our wonder. Inspire us to honor and extend the beauty we find in this world. Help us to open our hearts to all of our neighbors. Open our souls to a renewal of faith. Open our hands to join together in the hard work ahead. Let us hold all of these prayers in our hearts as we enter into a time of silent meditation. When my Aunt Doris graduated from her nurse's training program in 1963, she was ready to begin her career as an obstetrics nurse. Yet shortly thereafter, she met a charismatic and a handsome older man named Al. He was the son of the local minister. Doris fell madly in love with Al. So a few months later, when he proposed marriage, she happily agreed. He told her that he would financially support her and that she'd never have to work a day again in her life. Of course, she was thrilled. This is what she'd been dreaming about since she was a little girl. Who wants to work long hours in a hospital when someone will take care of you financially? At the beginning of their marriage, Doris and Al, they seemed happy. They were living the life that was expected of them. Al worked long hours as an accountant. Doris stayed home. She cooked, she cleaned, she did laundry, and she raised their 4 children, my cousins. Al was the clear head of household, and he made most of the family decisions all by himself. He would give Doris a spending allowance each week, much like you would with a child. When the children got out of line, Al would discipline them with his belt. While it made Doris a bit nervous to see her husband hurting the children in this way, her upbringing told her that this is what men do. As the years passed, Doris began seeing more and more of Al's rage directed at her. Once when Al believed that she had spent too much on the groceries, he lashed out at her by calling her names and then began throwing the eggs at her, all the while her children watched. If Doris wanted to spend some time with her friends, Al would only allow this if she had finished all of her household chores and then was home in time to make him dinner. Once when Doris failed to get dinner on the table in time, he threw her to a wall. He gave her a concussion. She was in the hospital for 2 days. But, when those 2 days were up, Al arrived at the hospital with flowers and an apology. And she forgave him and went back home. What else could she do? Where else could she go? This cycle of violence continued for decades, leaving Doris with too many bruises, lashed lacerations, and broken bones. Yet somehow she always went back to Al, and they swept it under the rug until the next time. Doris had been controlled by Al for so long, through years and years of psychological and emotional abuse, that she believed that she was worthless. She believed that somehow she deserved this abuse. This story of my aunt and uncle, it reminds me of the parable of the frog. And the frog is placed in a pot of cold water on the stove, but the burner is on, and the water is gradually heating up. The frog doesn't jump out of the water as it's heating up because it's happening so slowly it can't tell what's happening. It's unaware of the rising temperature. Unaware, that is, until it's boiled to death. When Doris met Al, he wasn't a violent monster. If he was, she never would have fallen in love with him in the first place. Sure, occasionally he had a bad temper, but it was easy to forgive his handsome face. But each time she forgave him, it only made it that much easier to forgive him the next time. It was only over time that he slowly became more and more abusive. And it was only toward the end of her life that she was able to see that she was put in this pot of boiling water. And she had the courage to jump out before it was too late. Unfortunately, this story of Al and Doris, it's not a unique one. Domestic violence is something that touches many of us. Yet somehow we choose not to talk about it. Traditionally, Americans have regarded domestic violence as something that is left for the married couple to work out. Something that's best kept behind closed doors. It's something that is seen as just part of a normal marriage. But let me tell you, there's nothing normal about using fear, intimidation, and violence to control the one who you made a vow to honor and love. Domestic violence, it can take many forms. According to the Faith Trust Institute, an organization that's working to end domestic violence, they say that domestic violence refers to a pattern of violent and coercive behavior exercised by one adult in an intimate relationship over the other. It's not simply a matter of marital conflict. It's not a lover's quarrel. It's not a private family matter. They describe 4 basic forms of domestic violence. Physical assault, which includes shoving, pushing, restraining, hitting, or kicking. Physical assaults may occur frequently or infrequently, but in many cases they tend to escalate in severity and frequency over time. There's sexual assaults. Anytime one partner forces sexual acts that are unwanted or declined by the other partner. There's psychological assaults, which can include isolation from family and friends, forced financial dependence, verbal and emotional abuse, threats, intimidation, and control over where the partner can go and when. Or there's attacks against property and pets. Destruction of property that may include household objects or treasured items belonging to the victim, hitting the walls, or abusing or killing beloved pets. While domestic violence can occur in any intimate relationship, it is a crime that is disproportionately perpetrated by men against women. The statistics are staggering. According to the 2014 National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey released by the CDC, 1 in 3 women have been slapped, pushed, or shoved by an intimate partner at some point in their lives. Nearly 1 in 4 women have experienced severe physical violence, such as being beaten, burned, choked, slammed against something, or hit with a fist. Nearly 1 in 5 women have been raped in their lifetimes. 1 in 6 women have been stalked at some point in their lives. These are hard numbers to hear. This data, it clearly describes a widespread public health crisis. It's one that must be talked about openly and honestly if we wish to have any chance to curb this violence. And let me be clear, this is not a problem that happens over there in other communities, in other families. We know that those who commit violence against their intimate partners, they come from every race, every socioeconomic class, every education level, every religion. Yes, this is something that is happening even in a town like Medfield. So you may ask the question, where does this abuse come from? What would make a man feel like he has the right to harm his intimate partner? The one that he promised to love and cherish with all of his heart. The problem stems from a need for power and control. Often an abuser has the idea that it's his role as a man to control his wife. That he is entitled to do whatever he deems is necessary to keep his wife submissive and attentive to his needs. Often the abuser is very narcissistic, where he thinks that his needs and his wants are more important than hers. In Lundy Bancroft's book, Why Does He Do That?, he describes a typical mindset of an abuser. He writes, "The abusive man's high entitlement leads him to have an unfair and unreasonable expectation, an expectation that the relationship revolves around his demands. His attitude is, you owe me. For each ounce he gives, he wants a pound in return. He wants his partner to devote herself fully to catering to him, even if it means her own needs or her children's needs are neglected. You can pour all your energy into keeping your partner content, but if he has this mindset, he'll never be satisfied for long. You will keep feeling that you are controlling him because he doesn't believe that you should be able to set any limit on his conduct. But let me be clear, regardless of why an abuser does what he does, it is never the domestic violence survivor's job to try to fix the abuser. Likely he's been abusive for a very long time and will continue until he begins to honestly look at his destructive cycle of violence and to seek professional help. And there are some excellent programs available for abusive men who are ready to take responsibility for their actions and move to a place of transformation. But let me repeat, it is never the survivor's job to fix the abuser. The survivor's only concern should be getting herself and her children to safety. Now, I wonder how my aunt's life might have turned out differently if she had the support from her community to leave her abusive husband. If she lived at a time where this wasn't seen as normal and acceptable. For the abuse that she and her children endured have left generational scars. Scars that are still being dealt with today. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence in the home, please know that there is help available to you. There are phone numbers listed in your order of service of agencies that can help you. For you are not alone. I am available to speak to you anytime, night or day. You are not alone. We here in this congregation will support you as you go through this painful process. You are not alone. There are safe places where you and your children can go tonight if need be. You are not alone. I pray that the Spirit of life give you the strength and the courage to navigate these rough waters, trusting that there are calmer shores ahead. Friends, you are not alone. And as you prepare to leave this sacred space, pack away a piece of this church in your heart. Wrap it carefully like a precious gem. Carry it with you through all the joys and sorrows of your days. Let its gentle glow strengthen you, warm you, remind you of all that is good and true, until we gather again in this place of life. I will now extinguish our chalice, but let its light remain with you until we meet again. Here ends our worship. Let our service begin.